Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dr. Ryan Truchelut of WeatherTiger, and I'm going to be bringing you the very latest on Category 4 Hurricane Ida, which has made landfall in southeastern Louisiana and is continuing to move inland and will be spreading its worst effects to the most populated areas of eastern Louisiana through the evening tonight. I'm going to let the audience filter in here for about a minute and a half, uh, and then I'll start my forecast. In the meantime, if you have any specific questions for that you want to ask me, please feel free to type them in the comment box, and I will try to get to them, as many of them as I can, at the end of the broadcast. So I'll be back in about 90 seconds to start the forecast. Okay, I'm going to get started. For those of you who have just joined us, my name is Dr. Ryan Truchelut. I'm a hurricane forecaster at WeatherTiger, and I will be breaking down the very latest on Category 4 Hurricane Ida as it moves through eastern Louisiana this afternoon and then continuing to move north into the day tomorrow into Mississippi. This is a visible satellite image showing that Ida made landfall here at Port Fourchon around noon Central Time and is continuing to track northwest and inland into southeastern Louisiana right now. So I'm going to talk about first the key messages from the National Hurricane Center as of their most recent full advisory package at 10 a.m. And the focus that they want people to prepare for. Storm surge, of course, is occurring, probably peak surge or just past peak surge at this point for most of southeastern Louisiana. Catastrophic wind damage that's occurring where the core of Ida is moving ashore between Homa and Grand Isle. I've seen some crazy high wind readings. I'll get to those later in the broadcast here. And they also want to emphasize that damaging winds, especially in wind gusts, are very possible well inland, both across eastern Louisiana and southern Mississippi, southwestern Mississippi, into the night tonight. And fourth, Ida is going to be a big rainmaker across the Mississippi Gulf Coast, Alabama Gulf Coast, and southeastern Louisiana, as well as southern Mississippi. And there is a major risk of flash flooding, river flooding, urban flooding from that heavy rainfall. So surge risks, wind risks, and rainfall risks are the key risks that the National Hurricane Center wants to communicate. This is the track and the latest 1 p.m. intermediate advisory from the Hurricane Center. Movement was still northwest at 13, and they're basically calling for north-northwest movement, turning north and then northeast over the deep south over the next 36 hours. As of the 2 p.m. Central Time hourly update that the NHC is putting out, their 2 p.m. update is that maximum sustained winds have come down very slightly from the landfall intensity of 150 miles per hour, which equaled that of Hurricane Laura last year. So Ida's winds are now down as of 2 o'clock to maximum sustained winds of 145 miles per hour, with an estimated central pressure of around 934 millibars, just barely higher by a millibar or two than the landfall intensity. So not really weakening yet, because this part of southeastern Louisiana is mostly water. So movement continues to be to the northwest at around 12 miles per hour, which is slowing down just a touch. The other thing that they wanted to emphasize is that New Orleans is starting to see some significant wind impacts. Lakefront Airport reported a 76 mile per hour wind gust in the last hour. Well, the reason why you're not seeing any weakening as of yet is if you looked at this satellite image, you would not know that this is a hurricane technically over land. This is a healthy-looking Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. A very circular eye wall, ringed by intense, quite symmetrical convection, and that's textbook major hurricane. And this satellite presentation has not yet degraded, so weakening I would expect would be only quite slow for the next 2 to 3 hours until Ida moves over more solid land and isn't moving over bayous any longer. So this is an overlay of the NHC forecast track and cone with current radar and some recent wind data. And I'm showing this because I just wanted to show that you can compare the track line in black with where Ida is tracking, and it appears its current location is quite similar to the NHC track. So we're not really seeing any deviations left or right of forecast track yet at this point. I'll move this north a little bit, and what you can see here is that the expected track of the center of Ida basically goes between Baton Rouge and New Orleans metropolitan areas, about a third of the way from Baton Rouge, 2/3 of the way from New Orleans, maybe 20 miles east of Baton Rouge, 40 miles east of New Orleans, something like that. Currently, so I'm going to get into each of the impacts here one at a time. The first one I want to talk about is wind. And there is currently what's called an extreme wind warning in effect for this portion of southeastern Louisiana. These parishes are currently under an extreme wind warning. What's an extreme wind warning? It's a warning only issued by the National Weather Service when non-tornadic winds of 120 miles per hour or greater are ongoing or expected. It's the equivalent of a tornado warning. So if you are under an extreme wind warning, you need to react as if you had received a tornado warning and a tornado was on its way to your house or location. That means go to a fortified structure. Think about the direction that trees would fall. Note the wind direction and go to a part of your house where, if you have large trees nearby, that they wouldn't fall into that room. An interior room, wear a helmet if you have one. Do all the things that you would do to protect your life as if a tornado was on the way, because the wind equivalent of a tornado is on its way to these areas across southeastern Louisiana. Now this does not include, as of yet, either the Baton Rouge or New Orleans metropolitan areas. Baton Rouge, I would expect that you will probably be getting into one of these warnings sometime into the overnight hours. Maybe not. We'll see how fast the wind field degrades. The text of this extreme wind warning from the National Weather Service, this is an extremely dangerous and life-threatening situation, and widespread destructive winds of 115 to 135 miles per hour will spread across this area, these parishes in southeastern Louisiana, and producing swaths of tornado-like damage. Take cover now. Treat these imminent extreme winds as if a tornado was approaching, and move immediately to the safe room of your shelter. Take action now to protect your life. Those are the words of the National Weather Service Local Forecast Office out of New Orleans. This is a look at the current wind field, and it's these areas that are kind of in these whitish and pinkish colors. That's the outer radius of wind gusts to around 100 miles per hour. And this is all going to be moving northwest and then north over the next 6 hours or so. So the key question here, you can mark up what we're looking at here. There's two eye walls associated with Ida right now. There's this inner eye wall, and it's this inner eye wall right in here. That's the region where you're going to see 140 mile per hour wind gusts possible. That's where you're seeing the Category 4 winds. This outer eye wall that's formed over the course of the morning hours, it's that area that's going to see 100 mile per hour plus wind gusts, certainly. And this whole thing is moving northwest and then going to turn north-northwest over the course of the day today. So just drawing what the expected track of this outer this outer eye wall is going to be. You can see that it's going to be moving into the Baton Rouge region, into the early, the overnight tonight, probably sometime around 8 p.m. or so. And it's also going to probably at this point bisect the New Orleans metropolitan area. The eastern half of the New Orleans metro area, I would guess max wind gusts will probably be on the order of 80 to 100 miles per hour. Western half of the New Orleans metro area, looking at wind gusts of 100 miles per hour or greater. And I think there's going to be a swath in here that gets this kind of inner eye between New Orleans and Baton Rouge that gets 120 mile per hour plus wind gusts. My guess would be that area outlined in red there. This is the National Weather Service's map that shows their estimated top wind gusts, and you can see kind of what I just drew there. That's the region that gets the inner eye wall core, that gets those potential gusts to 120 miles per hour. And that outer region that encompasses Baton Rouge and perhaps the western half of the New Orleans metro area that gets those 100 mile per hour plus wind gusts. And note also that these hurricane force wind gusts extend well north into southwestern Mississippi. Southwestern Mississippi likely to see an area that gets hurricane force wind gusts at least through the night tonight and into early tomorrow, and tropical storm force wind gusts extending north into central Mississippi. Storm surge, we probably have just passed peak surge in a lot of locations. Just a quick check, we have seen over 7 feet of storm surge in eastern Louisiana. It's just starting to turn down, perhaps as the tide is going out. Just a quick check of some of the tidal gauges in the New Orleans metro area look like they're plateauing as well. Not much. I don't really want to focus on surge right now because surge is basically at its peak. There's not really anything that you can do about it if you're still in one of these flooded areas. Another threat that I want to talk about, a very serious one, is the threat of flash flooding. This area highlighted in purple is the region that's at extreme risk of flash flooding, and the area highlighted in red that's going north here into across much of Mississippi, there's major potential for flash flooding in those areas as well. Expectations are over the next 72 hours, eastern Louisiana picks up anywhere from 8 to 15 inches of rainfall, and that's true for the Mississippi Gulf Coast and about the southern third of Mississippi as well. Rest of Mississippi picking up anywhere from 3 to 8 inches of rainfall. And those heavy totals also extending 3 to 6 inches across western Alabama and far western portions of the Florida Panhandle as well. Then you can see this is a wider shot of the radar. Here's the core of Ida in here, but there's a broad area well east of the circulation that's pumping this Gulf moisture into the central Gulf Coast and putting down heavy rainfall. And as far east as Panama City Beach, Pensacola, Mobile. I saw tropical storm force winds, sustained winds at 50 miles an hour over coastal Alabama, so those tropical storm warnings are verifying there. Point being, widespread flash flooding is possible. Greatest chance of that is in southeastern Louisiana, where the impacts are going to be worst. As you go western half of the storm is not going to see much in the way of certainly flooding rainfall, and I think it's just going to be intermittent rainfall basically from Lafayette and western half of Louisiana caught a break on this one, and southeastern Louisiana took the brunt. Tornadoes are always a risk with landfalling tropical storms. There's a tornado watch out for basically New Orleans east to about Destin in the Florida Panhandle. I do want to check to see if there's any ongoing tornado warnings. Yes, an ongoing tornado warning for Hancock, Harrison, and Pearl River counties in Mississippi. Let me pull up the map of exactly where that is. Okay, so here you are. Portions of far southwestern Mississippi, you are under a tornado warning currently. Let me see if there's any tornado warnings from NWS Mobile. I don't see any currently right now. So one ongoing tornado warning. Any of these bands, even out here into the Florida Panhandle, could very quickly spin up a tornado. So be on the lookout for that and be ready to seek shelter if you receive a tornado warning. With that, I'm going to see if there's any questions. Got a question about Lafayette conditions. Lafayette, I think you have lucked out here for the most part. Your wind speeds are going to be, I think you'll probably get some, breezy conditions, maybe some low-end tropical storm force gusts. I don't think you'll see much in the way of damaging winds, and I think even rainfall will only be intermittent as this core of Ida remains to your east. So fortunate for Lafayette, but I do think both Baton Rouge and New Orleans Metro certainly have potential for those 100-mile-per-hour plus wind gusts. Not seeing any further questions. I'm going to wrap it up here. If you are, just to final point to reemphasize, if you are in the path of the outer eye wall and certainly the inner eye wall, treat this as a tornado warning, and it's a tornado warning that's going to go on for the next 12 to 18 hours. Take shelter. Don't go outside. This is a very serious threat to life and property, so please take shelter and do what you can to get through this. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there. I'm Dr. Ryan Truchelut of WeatherTiger, and stay safe, Louisiana, and you are in my prayers to get through this historical hurricane. Category 4 hurricane landfall with 150-mile-per-hour sustained winds is a top 10 historical United States landfall in terms of sustained winds. So this is a very rare event, and this is as serious as it gets for New Orleans, Baton Rouge, and southeastern Louisiana. Okay, stay safe, Louisiana. Keep watching the skies.